Susan, you've studied SeaWorld as it grew over the last few decades. What emphasis has been on research? What did you understand about how big a deal that was for SeaWorld when it started, and what did your studies turn up?
My study turned up that the Marine Mammal Protection Act was what really forced SeaWorld to begin to emphasize what it called a research agenda. In other words, I think that the...
When was that act put into play?
1972. 72, I think, yeah. One of the things that it did was to sort of put this corporation on the defensive to show that it was doing something positive. And while I really don't want to take away from the intentions of the people who work at SeaWorld doing research and work with SeaWorld doing research, because I think that they're sincere. I think that this was more of a politically defensive move, as well as a kind of marketing move.
Help us understand, what did the law do that made SeaWorld change?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, it made it illegal to capture these animals in the wild.
That's not correct.
Right?
No,
am I not correct?
It regulated it so that if you were going to seek a permit to take these animals from the wild or to hold them in captivity, you needed an education and a conservation program.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the exemption in the law that allows them to exist.
So one of SeaWorld's founders had been a marine biologist, and a small institute called Hubbs Institute was sort of added into or joined into SeaWorld at its beginning. And after 1972, I'm not so sure that they expanded the institute as much as they expanded the public's awareness of the institute. When I was looking at their publications in the 80s and 90s, it didn't seem to me that this was an especially robust or competitive research agenda.
What
would you say to that?
What is a competitive and robust research agenda?
Well, I think...
That's my first question.
I would say very pressing questions. I mean, I saw, at least in the 80s and 90s, SeaWorld doing a lot of sort of small-level contract research. It wasn't like big questions were being, sort of big natural historical or big biological questions were being asked and answered.
I think that's, it's fair that you have that opinion, but research is not the, you don't go from one giant step to another. Research is the accumulation and the answers of important questions over time. Mm-hmm. And as they build up, you get more and more answers. Occasionally you get an Albert Einstein, but it's a natural progression of questions leading to more questions, leading to more questions. And that's the beauty of science, and it's a never-ending process. In that vein, we have published 50 articles in the last 50 years, peer-reviewed, so it's about one a year between all of our different organizations that are about only killer whales. If you look at the whole spectrum of all the animals we have and all the research we do, we put out about 40 articles and scientific discussions a year. We work with Hub SeaWorld and SeaWorld. We're partners in this quest to learn more, and we are dedicated to research. So, Dr. Rose,
can I just respond to that again? I'm, as a killer whale biologist, I think Todd and I sort of talk somewhat the same language. The study he's referring to about basal metabolic rate, has an N of 1, and I understand why it is something that they need to expand, and it was a note. It wasn't actually a peer-reviewed paper because it had an N of 1. And I'm hoping they're going to expand on it. I'm assuming that that's the intention. But again, I can only go back to the point that 50 papers in 50 years on killer whales, given that they've had the largest collection of killer whales over that time frame, and they currently have 29, And given that a single killer whale researcher in 20 years can put out 100 papers, you know, that's not an impressive output for an institution with a very large collection of animals to which it has access. So, in fact, and again, I'm not actually discussing the rest of their output because they do have hubs research and they do some legitimate work with other species, but when it comes to killer whales, their output has been, and I will use this word because, again, I'm speaking as a biologist, it has been pathetic.
What does the number of articles matter? I mean,
it is the metric by which, you know, research, science, academia is measured. Ask Susan, she's still in academia. I mean, it is your research output that gives you credibility and legitimacy as a research institution. And again, for a facility to be in existence for 50 years and to produce on a single species, for which it has the largest collection, only 50 papers, that is not impressive.